Hey everyone, Kristy Glass here with a video on YouTube. This is my first video on YouTube with a finished object in quite some time, and as promised, I am going to have some content here on YouTube. Most of my content is behind a paywall at patreon.com, so if you'd like to see all of the videos that I'm putting out, head on over to patreon.com/KristyGlassKnits and you can see all of my videos there. But I did want to do a special video today because life is hard. Life is so hard right now, and I do think that this finished object video is going to resonate with a lot of people, and I wanted to share it. I know we've all been experiencing a pandemic for the past couple of years now, and I'm shooting this on day 6 of the war in Ukraine, so when this video comes out, I don't know what the status of that will be, but this is the day that I'm shooting this video. And I know there's been a lot of personal tragedy as well, of course centered around COVID, but otherwise. And I personally, in the past month of February, experienced a sudden passing of some friends. And I just had all of the emotions, all of the feelings that come with such shocking news. And I know that sometimes when there's tragedy, people know it's coming if there's perhaps an illness that is stretched out or some other reason that kind of makes sense. But in this case, none of it made sense to me, and it was really a difficult time for my community to grapple with this news. And something interesting about this situation is I didn't know a lot of the family. I knew this couple after they had left their own hometowns and their own families and communities to start their lives in New York City. And so New York City is where we came together, and then they went off and did other things in other places. So I didn't know their children and I didn't know their parents, and I really wanted them to know everything they possibly could know about these people that maybe they didn't know. Funerals are an interesting time because everyone deals with their own grief differently, and sometimes I feel when I'm attending a funeral that it's almost a burden on the family because they have to talk to people or just receive so much, and it just feels like it could be very heavy on the people who are standing there trying to be strong. And I want them to feel supported, and I don't want to burden them by telling my story or expressing my grief. I feel like that must be really hard on the people who are there. So I say all of this to help you understand this finished object. And this finished object is very simple. It's a heart. And I'm going to tie it into world events as well. But this is a simple pattern. It's by Teresa Fox. It's called Little Hearts, and it is free. And I will link to it underneath this video. I didn't know what I could do. When I don't know what to do, I usually pick up my knitting needles and I start knitting. When a family member of mine's son passed away suddenly, I got that news, I walked straight to my craft room. I just started knitting for the mother. And I know many people do this. I know that's why prayer shawls are a thing, that just it's a meditation and it's a time to just hold people in your heart. So the day before the funeral, I just spent the whole day making these little tiny hearts. And at the beginning, they took me about an hour, and then I got a little bit faster. But they're 3-dimensional. They are puffy. They're full of a little polyfill. You can also fill it with just bits of extra scraps of yarn or something else if you don't have any polyfill. But each heart represented their children, their parents, and I could just hold them like a prayer as I was knitting this item. And I wanted them to someday come across this heart at some point. Maybe it would bring them smile or comfort. I don't know. It was, for me, it was for them. It was an exercise that hopefully was mutually beneficial. And then I just wrote a short little memory I had, and I printed it and put it on a little paper heart, and I attached it to the knitted hearts, and I placed it in the basket next to the guest book, which I don't attend so many funerals, but I think that seems like something that would be at most funeral homes, a guest book and maybe a place for a card or something. So I did that. I just brought my little hearts with my little message and I placed them in the basket. And I think that the ego me or the selfish me would have loved to have a moment when I placed the knitted heart in someone's hand and connect with them and know that they felt my love in that moment. But that's not what grieving is about. And so I was totally fine with just placing it there. And I just made a little wish that the right people would find the little hearts and read the little message, and maybe it would bring them some sort of joy, like a tiny bit of joy in a moment of sorrow. So these hearts are my finished object. Now, as I don't like to talk about politics and news on my YouTube channel, I really do have pretty strict boundaries about that. I like to stick to knitting, but this is about knitting. I have made exceptions when knitting collides with that, and I made a heart with my yellow and blue yarn. This is from Hedgehog. I believe it's Merino Aran Hedgehog yarn. And I just made this little heart because I don't know what else to do. And I do think there are ways to donate money. My parents actually live in Eastern Europe right now, and they told me before all of this started that I shouldn't send them anything because I won't receive it. So I don't think there's a way for us to send things except probably money. So there have been some initiatives I've seen of people shopping on Etsy from Ukrainian makers, and there's other avenues. So please share if you have those. I just knit a little heart with the Ukrainian flag colors, and it was my prayer. It was my moment of sort of focusing on that and again, going to my needles when the world doesn't make sense. So I wanted to share this finished object with you. I will link to the pattern underneath this video, and I hope it brings you some sort of peace. Sometimes all we can do is just meditate, and we can do it through knitting. And this little tiny pattern has really helped me through some hard times in the past couple of weeks. I really love this project a lot. It kind of reminds me of the Hexies, the Hexie Puffs. I don't know if you could put them together, sew them together. Maybe you can add a pin and wear one. Maybe you can put a chain through it and wear it as a necklace if you wanted to show some sort of solidarity or make a statement with your knitting. I just wanted to share that with you today. Thank you so much for joining me here on YouTube, and I will see you next time. Bye.